Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So in this photograph, there is, okay, there are a couple of things it tells. Okay, so first of all, what makes a photograph is this very sweet dog just kind of neutrally laying down with a yellow kind of leash of sorts, laying down on a fleece blanket or a towel. And because of the conversation and because of what's in the photo, it's kind of like on a hospital bed. And behind, since we're in Canada or in a cold climate, it looks like a radiator, a kind of radiator casing. There's a little bit of the sort of hospital blue, not really sure what that is, but it's essentially a portrait of a very sweet sort of dog. And there's this one human hand gently holding on, and that hand looks like it's been around for a while, probably 7-year-old hand, I guess. Can't see it. It's not close up, but that's part of the skin, 70, 80. So what is this, Allison? What am I looking at?
That is Winston in my mom's hospital bed. Winston is my dog.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom is currently in the hospital. She, on, 6 weeks ago now, fell backwards down 10 concrete steps. And I am her daughter, resilient. I'll tell you, I am so impressed with this woman. She climbed back up, got her glasses on the fourth step, like crawled back up.
So when she fell, did she break something?
Yeah, she hit her head, but she didn't break anything else.
Shit.
Her back was black, like just purple, right? From the fall. But yeah, what a blessing. She has all of her cognitive function. She has, like, her head is okay. They had to do one head surgery to release some of the blood, and then they were concerned about a second.
Mm-hmm.
And she's now been in the hospital for 5.5 weeks, 6 weeks. And we're trying to get her stabilized with her blood pressure and her nausea. She's got a lot of vertigo. It's it's been a process. So until last night, she was 2 hours away from me. It was about 2 hours of driving each way, about an hour and a half. And then, you add in the packing time and the, whatever. But it was basically a 4-hour commute, and I went 5 to 6 days a week.
Wow.
And then I was like, trigger, you're complaining a lot about this because my pain, of course, when I speak or when I drive is problematic, and I'm trying to write a book, and my 4 hours a day was being taken by this thing, but I wanted to be with my mom, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, the doctors have deemed my dog a therapy dog.
Yeah.
And so now he can go into the hospital with me. And last week I made arrangements to stay down there for a month, packed up my life, live there. And then yesterday they were like, no, we're going to send her to the hospital closer to home. And I'm like, hallelujah. So I repacked up my life and I moved here. And the reason I wanted to share this picture is because so often we're going through things and people don't necessarily know. Like, I've had lots of conversations in the last 6 weeks that people have no clue that either I'm outside the hospital, I'm in a borrowed office in Windsor, in the hotel room, wherever I needed to be.
Oh, wow.
Because we all have a story going on behind our curtain. You have a story. I have a story. Every person who's listening has a story. And it's what we do with that story. And you so graciously were like, look, I know you got a lot going on. Like, do you want to postpone the podcast? And I'm like, no, I don't, because I still need to work and I still need to live my mission. And the things I've learned over different tragedies and things like this over the years in varying degrees is that we don't need to take the emotion and the devastation from that. Like, obviously I'm scared about my mom. Obviously I want to be there for her as much as I can. And, she and I are exceptionally close, right? Like, I'm so blessed to have a mom who cares and is my biggest cheerleader and all those wonderful things.
That comes through so loudly, by the way.
Thank you.
It really does.
She's just a salt of the earth person, like human. And I wish this wasn't happening to her because I follow my own methodology. Because I understand which part of this is an adversity, what is triggering my survival stress, instinct. And I don't judge myself for that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's intense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's intense.
Yep.
But then because I have all these other frameworks around that, I don't need to take that level of intensity and concern into the next thing that I'm doing.
Right.
Right? I can look and I can say, okay, that emotion. Whereas in the old days, I would be in a ton of pain, or I would be, even when mom has had lots of other health challenges over the years. And I remember once, is one of my more embarrassing moments. I left the hospital. I was scared to death. I'd already lost my dad, and I was leaving my mom in the same hospital. Right.
Oh, wow.
And
that is heavy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my credit card wouldn't work in the parking thing.
Yeah.
And we've all been there, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone, but like, it is not the parking person's responsibility that my card is not working. That person does not know how devastated I am about my dad and the misplaced emotion that I'm playing with right in that moment. And, and concern for my mom. And I took it out on this person. And in my book, I call the innocent bystanders who get this. And this level of misplaced emotion and not even being aware of the intensity of what we're feeling can then just sort of shoot out over here. Like if we're not properly processing it. So now when I leave the hospital, I'm like, okay, check in. Like, what am I actually feeling? I'm feeling helpless for my mom. Well, I don't need to feel helpless for everything in my life. Right?
Yeah.
But do you see how those most powerful emotions can overshadow and sort of cloud everything we do in our day?
So one of the great things about having a dog like Winston is that how a dog's brain is going to interpret the stimulus of the threats and whatever, obviously has the hormonal responses and all this thing for sure. But one of the great things about holding, like in the photograph, your mom is just kind of holding on, is that it's a kind of very tangible reminder of just to be more in your body, to be more present, to be more like, okay, this is where I am. And it just kind of takes you out of your head. Right. And so when you're talking about like leaving the hospital, and we've all been there where, all of a sudden the card fails and you're like, God damn it. Like what else could go wrong? Yes. That too. Yeah. I mean, everybody's been there. Everybody's had that kind of moment, but it's also like, okay, like just experience it in a way. Like what would Winston do? Like Winston has a credit card, comes to use it, and maybe Winston just gets really angry and snarls at the machine and then feels, because you kind of have to kind of express the emotion as well, right?
Right. But you need to, I totally agree with you. And you need to express it in a way that's not disrespectful to another human being who has nothing to do with it.
Okay. You're such a Canadian.
I am. I remember I was
disrespectful.
I was walking through New York for one of the first times I ever went to New York, right? I had my big like briefcase on and I'm like pushing my way through and I'm in a bit of a hurry, but I'm like, to every person I pass, I'm like, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
And one guy goes, "What are you, Canadian?" Sorry about the swear word. I'll have to get rid of that. Yeah. But I'm like, I am. He's like, I can tell. And I'm like, how are you? And I started a conversation with the guy and we had a really great chat together for a while. But anyway, it was like, our angst. I think one of the things that when we're feeling those really desperately powerful emotions, that the instinct is if we share it with somebody else or we take it out on somebody else, that we can release it from ourselves.
Oh, okay.
And we're gonna share the burden of it. And in trusting relationships, that's great. And they can be aware of what's happening and there's an appropriate time to share and an appropriate way to share. They're sharing it and unloading on strangers, i.e., let's take the grocery store clerk in the middle of COVID, right? And the person, right? Or the bus driver or the police officer who's out there and you're going through all this stuff. And then you come across this person and there's like a little itty bitty hiccup that's completely unrelated to any of it.
Yeah. Like,
my magnetic strip wasn't working or it could have been maxed. I don't even remember at this point. And taking that out on another human being. So now they're feeling defensive for the next person to come through.
Right.
And then maybe they don't know how to process their emotions. So now they take it out on that next guy who's, just lost somebody they love.
Yeah.
Or they go home and they got unloaded on all day unfairly. And now they're mean to their family.
Yeah.
because they can't take it anymore. And so what I've found is I need to get better at processing and being more self-aware. It's self-awareness is one of the second step in my problem solving framework. And by being more self-aware and being more compassionately curious with myself.
Yeah.
And be like, what am I really feeling right now? And does that apply to the thing that's actually happening in front of me?
Yes. I followed what you said. I agree with what you say. It makes sense to me. You said earlier that ending with this photograph is actually on the high, not the high note, but it's like, it's because in a way you're taking us on a journey that, through the 4 photos. And as I'm talking again, I have this large image of a dog, Winston, looking at the camera. It's very touching. And what's, in terms of the symbolism of it, there's a human hand that's just there that you see. The subject of the photo is Winston. The setting is a hospital. And one of the details is this human hand. So now that I've kind of boxed you into a kind of a corner or whatever, how about you explain why this image, like what kind of seed do you want to put in a person's head to kind of be inspired from this point to go forward? It may not be a coherent question, but you figure it out.
It's great. Yeah, your questions are great. I'm just looking at the photo in the eyes of Winston. I think we can learn so much from dogs. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Even when I had him, I took him. So she's in the new hospital today, and we went in for the first time, and he's laying beside her just like he does this. He jumps in the bed and he stays there for 6 hours and doesn't want to move. And then we go. And today I'm going back and forth because I had this interview and another meeting and client thing. And so he looked up at me. I'm like, okay, honey, we got to go. And I put him in a pouch like I'm a kangaroo mother. It's ridiculous. But anyway, it's easier than, he's problem solving, right? And I looked up at him and the eyes were like, I'm not done here yet. But what was interesting is he and it's the most sarcastic look of like, do not make me move. I am here. I do not want to go yet. I'm with, my mom and everything. And I'm like, no, honey, let's go. We got to go. And he immediately got up and he switched gears. And now he wasn't like angry with me 4 minutes down the road, right? He was like, okay, now I'm in this moment.
Exactly.
And I'm going to do this thing. And I think life is a lot like that. And if we can figure out strategies, which I'm trying to bring to people, with the Stress Illusion book and with my work already, to be more about, look, there's a lot of really crappy stuff that's going to happen in your life.
It's life. Yep.
Yeah. And maybe you're not living a stressful life. Maybe it's just life. And our ability to be okay with that, not to ignore it. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I know, I can't control it, so I shouldn't think about it. I'm like, who told you that? Because the truth of the matter is the stuff that we can't control is the stuff that we care about the most.
Okay.
So if we don't lean into that, if we just ignore it and we say, screw it. Yeah, no, I can't think about that. I can't control that, this happened. Yeah, but it doesn't negate the fact that it happened.
Sure.
And so we have to, I believe, as a society, get better at being okay with the suckage, because there's a lot of things that suck. But we don't need to let that define us, and we don't need to let it take us off our greater purpose. Because that's how I've been spending my days, is like I'm writing my book beside my mom's hospital bed.
Yeah.
Like, what's the irony in that?
No irony, more like power, I'd say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of power there. Allison Graham is in the house.
Thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, I love it. This is so great. Look, all the best health to your mom and to you, obviously, because you're still going through the neuropathic pain, right?
Oh, yeah, I still have it, but I don't take the neuropathic medication. Meds. I have lots of health issues that I just deal with. And I've got to manage it, and I've made friends with my pain.
Well, as the old saying doesn't quite go, the tree always grows close to where the apple fell. So you're the apple, and your mom grew. So your mom is very much like you, and resilience all the way. And I love that as I'm talking to you, we're using this online platform, and I can see your face and beautiful expressions and lots of like really a brightness, which is very nice. And behind you is the sun sending the shadows of the leaves on the wall, which really gives a sense of time. Like, yeah, thank you for your time. You're great.
You're welcome. I think the sun started in this window in front of me when we started our conversation and has now moved over to 3/4 through the other window. So that would be an indication.
We've been talking a long time.
A long time, but what a beautiful opportunity. And
awesome.
That to me is never lost.
Allison, thank you so much. All the best to you and your mom, of course. All the best to you and your mom.
Thank you. And you too.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.